Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to point out, each and every day, it expands our base. This country is facing a real crisis. It is a crisis of information. The White House has announced that it will control those who are allowed to participate in the White House press briefings, and indeed, it appears, even those who can ask questions. This is profoundly disturbing. Many of you will recall my close relationship with Helen Thomas. Helen was White House correspondent from, frankly, forever. She was there under Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter. I mean, it was amazing. And whenever Helen would appear on my radio program, we would have an absolutely wonderful time together talking about, well, all the issues and the presidents that she knew. Can you imagine how my old friend Helen Thomas would react to what is going on in the White House now? The idea of restricting who can ask questions, the idea of choosing who can be present, the idea that a president and his press staff control, essentially, access to the President of the United States. The fact that the AP, the Associated Press, has been banned from the White House, and indeed, well, that the White House essentially is suing CBS, 60 Minutes. I mean, you name it. There is something terribly wrong here. And I point it out because, well, how do I get access to my information? I get access by being able to know what the press is saying. And I listen to everything. I listen to Fox, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, NBC, NPR. I read prodigiously in order to know what is going on. And yes, I know the press has biases. I understand that in the old days, and I mean now the 60s, 70s, we had a real take on what the press said. ABC was more conservative. NBC was more center. CBS was more liberal. We knew that NPR was a more liberal approach. We knew where our commentators were and where they were coming from. On KGO, we had a variety of talk show hosts, libertarian, Republican, Democrat. I would even suggest we had people who were indescribable, like Ray Taliaferro. We had a range of opinion and thought, sometimes critical, sometimes supportive, but always interesting and intriguing. What we are seeing now is an attempt by the White House to control information. Now, I want you to know when I get up in the morning and I decide what I'm going to talk about, there are a million things that I could talk about. You and I know that what's happening in Ukraine, the fact that Zelensky is coming to Washington, the fact that there is a deal now evidently being set for access to mineral rights in Ukraine. I mean, you can go on and on. You can talk about what's happening with NATO and the concerns that the European allies have with this president. You can talk about what's happening in Congress, where by a mere 2 votes, Speaker Johnson was able to get his proposal through Congress, through the House. It'll change dramatically, but the point is, we know all of this. We hear all of this. We watch all of this. We have question and answers over these issues because we believe in a free press. What Donald Trump and his White House seem to believe in is a controlled press. A controlled press, my friends, is a disaster for American democracy. I don't say this lightly. I say it because what the administration is doing, what Donald Trump has determined to do, is to sue media outlets, force them to settlements where some money is paid and where the administration can claim they won, you lost. This is not the way the press should function. I go back to Helen Thomas. I go back to, well, many of the people I knew who were involved in media in the White House, who were highly critical. Do you remember Dan Rather's confrontation with the President of the United States, Richard Nixon, or Walter Cronkite's eloquent statements about policy? Remember what Kennedy said? He said when Cronkite spoke, America listened. That's why he did his first major half-hour interview on the Cronkite program when Cronkite shifted to a half-hour format. And do you remember what Lyndon Johnson said? That he really lost the war in Vietnam when Walter Cronkite opposed him. I mean, do you understand what is happening and why I'm so concerned? Everywhere I go, people ask me about talk radio and what has happened to talk radio. And the answer is, talk radio as we once knew it in this country is gone. Now, I want you to be as concerned as I am about what the White House is doing now to limit news. Major news sources will clearly not be included in what the White House wants. The White House press pool when the president travels. Do you understand that when a president travels, the major networks, the major news outlets spend tons of money to make sure that they are covering the White House? And do you understand what the White House is doing? There will be people who will be covering the White House who are mere hacks, whose whole purpose is to support the Trump agenda. This, my friends, is not a free press. Now, I can only imagine the reaction of people who worked in the White House doing press briefings, what their reaction would be. Can you imagine if Pierre Salinger, who was John F. Kennedy's press secretary, were alive today, what he would say? Or George Reedy, who was Lyndon Johnson's press man for a while, or Bill Moyers? Can you imagine the outrage, the fury that would emanate from these individuals? So I've chosen this morning, in the midst of everything that we could talk about, to talk about a free press in America. Our ability to function as a nation, our ability to have information, my ability to talk intelligently about media and what's going on in the world, and everything comes from the fact that I am monitoring news outlets. You put limits on news outlets, White House, and you eliminate the ability for people like me, who may be supportive, may be critical, but who simply want access. Oh yes, this is a Mayday alert to an attempt by the Trump administration to control the press. Nothing could be worse for America. And frankly, we need to fight it with everything we have. The press associations need to protest to the White House. Indeed, I've even thought about the fact that they need to ignore what the White House is doing on certain occasions. That is to say, not cover, but rather simply report. This is a painful day in our country. It is a painful day when the White House is trying to limit press access. And my dear friends, make no mistake, the death knell of democracy is when you do not have a free press, when you do not have free expression, when you do not have the ability to speak out, and yes, to oppose or to support. If I sound impassioned about this, it is because I am. It is because I believe with perfect faith that if the press is restricted, well, we go a long way to hurting American democracy. I want you to think about it. I want you to contemplate what it would be like not to have access to all of the information that we need to make appropriate judgments. Well, I've said it. I hope that people are listening, and I hope you understand. The only thing that saves us is that First Amendment, free press. And if the White House tries to restrict free press, we're in deep trouble. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which, as you know, is our goal. I want to indicate that you can interact with me on Facebook, LinkedIn. Many of you email me. It's fine. I'm delighted to receive your messages, and I'm delighted to respond. And to Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this podcast, Gogo, thanks a million for everything you do every day. This is John Rothman. You are listening to Around the Political World with John Rothman, and I'll be back tomorrow.